Sally TV. Rock 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 Sally TV.
I want to have you set up a few songs on the box, just a brief backstory, because I know the full backstory will be in the book. And I want to specifically talk about some of your more Beatle-ish type of songs, which I think are really interesting. The first is Eskimo Sun, which is my favorite song on the ball.
Wow. Keith Valcourt's too. Eskimo Sun started with an idea. I'd heard lyrics, I'm going to love you all night long, kind of the old doo-wop songs. And, of course, the blues songs also had that. And I had read, because I read all the time, that in certain parts of Alaska and in snow way up north, nights were 6 months long. And I thought, gee, that's interesting. 6 months, love is here, loving you. An Eskimo Sun would come out only 6 months out of the year, which I thought was a bizarre thing. But I liked the sound of Eskimo Sun. And so I sat down and started using Harrison-esque kinds of picking and chording, which isn't taken from any particular Beatles song, not one I could name. But when you hear it, you hear that thing. And the bass and the vocal, the melody came really fast and is sort of McCartney-esque in it. Ba-da-da-da, da-da-da-da. Sounds McCartney-esque, kind of maybe from his first solo record, which came out around the same time. So I wrote that in 1968. And I had met a keyboard player who was a music teacher in New Jersey, whose name was Brooke Ostrander. I don't know how I got in the band with him, but he and I first started doing demos of my songs, and we recorded in his living room on a 2-track reel-to-reel. And in those days, there was 4-track had just stopped to be used in the 16-track. The 8-track came in, and then the 16-track. But in 1968, you got to remember, Zeppelin, Hendrix, Stones, the Beatles had just recorded Sgt. Pepper the year before. I mean, it was early on. And Derek and the Dominoes was coming out around that time. So there was so much rich music. And so Brooke Ostrander and I did about 15 of my tunes, and I went around trying to shop it. One of them was Eskimo Sun. Put On Your Slippers was on there. Going Blind was on that tape, which is actually, the original title was Little Lady, about a guy who falls in love with a mermaid, pretty much. Little lady from the land beneath the sea. You're so young and so much different than I. And then we decided, I didn't get a deal on my own. It was going to be a solo deal. So Ostrander and I decided to put a band together, which became Wicked Lester. And Paul Stanley was in it, and my school chum, Stephen Carnell, who I wrote Going Blind and She with, became lead guitar player. And eventually Kiss came out of that.
Mr. Make Believe is a song, one of my favorites, and that's a song that literally sounded like it could be pulled from Rubber Soul. A beautiful song. And was that autobiographical? Because if you really listen to the lyrics, perhaps you could take it that way.
Mr. Make Believe, when I first came to America, I had language difficulties, and so I didn't have a lot of friends. I still don't, really. I know a lot of people, but very few are friends. I don't hang out, I don't chat. It's just not who I am. And Mr. Make Believe was written on tour, 76, and we were in Detroit, and we had a day off, and I went to this little 4-track studio in the ghetto, way in the bad section of town. And there was hardly any recording equipment. There was a keyboard there, a bad one, and electric little amplifiers and stuff. And Mr. Make Believe had to do with me when I was trying to become Americanized, I spent a lot of time on my own just watching TV and daydreaming. And little kids, I was 8.5, 9 years old, little kids have imaginary friends. Mr. Make-Believe, Mr. Make-Believe.
There's an interesting demo on the Vault, Rockin' in the USA, that Kiss later recorded for the side 4 of Alive 2. That's another one. If you said, what song from my catalog do I never perform live, that would be one I would say that the fans would love, because it touches on so many different countries. But what's the backstory behind writing a song like that?
I remember hearing the Beach Boys talking about girls all over the world, and they didn't mention the girls, but wish they could all be, like California girls. And Dancing in the Street was about all the different cities in America. And they actually start to mention other places, people around the world are dancing in the streets. And I always thought, gee, why not write a song? By that point, Kiss had started touring around the world, and it was, semi-autobiographical, but light in nature. German Land was really neat, and you can fill in all the blanks, but there's no place like the USA. Coming from a legal immigrant, by the way, I say the word legal because there's a difference. And to me, America is just, the land of opportunity, the land of plenty, and still can't get over how amazing America is. So I wanted to write a song. Denmark was great, but I just can't wait to, rockin' in the USA. The place, by the way, that invented rock in the first place. And the chords are just 1-4-5 chords, and then I stuck in Andrew's Sisters harmonies. That's all me, playing drums, guitar, everything, backgrounds.
Very interesting.
I tried to copy Ken Sharp in his demos.
There you go, high voice. See You Tonight is one that you obviously have felt an affinity for. Recorded it on your solo album. Kiss performs that a lot of times in the Unplugged shows before. It was actually in Unplugged as well, the TV performance. But when was that song written, and what's the backstory behind See You Tonight?
I heard Beatles 4, early Beatle record.
Beatles 6.
Beatles 6. Beatles 6, an early Beatle record, and was so fast. Of course, Rubber Soul all made it come home, but you hear the acoustic guitar being the backbone of the songwriting, and lots of D's and G's and A minors, and the melodies would soar above those with harmonies and everything. I literally started strumming A minor, before My Sweet Lord, and going right to A minor to E minor to A minor, which is My Sweet Lord, and then to D. But it's also He's So Fine by the Chiffons, and that's why Harrison had to pay them a lot of money. And the melody and the lyric came linear. I didn't try to figure out what it all meant. So today, even today, I'll see you get it tonight, and if I can't, I'll cry and cry. You won't see me without it, and I'll see you tonight. I still don't know what it is, and all the fans go, what's it? What are you talking about? I go, I don't know, I just want to see the chick. I'll see you tonight. But I couldn't think of a word that fit. So it was a placeholder, like Susudio. I know it's around. I don't have any doubts about that fact. I'll see you get it tonight. What's it? I don't know. It just fit.
Best left to the imagination sometimes. How about Always Near You, which is a haunting song? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember.
And that's on the Vault again.
Always Near You the idea came from a movie I saw as a kid called The Ghost and Mrs. Muir. And this woman has a heartbreak, a breakup of her relationship, and she goes to a seaside, like in Maine, and there's storms and everything, and there's not a firelight, but a lighthouse. And she keeps hearing that the place is haunted, and she settles in there with her broken heart, and she meets the ghost of a captain that died there, and they fall in love. The Ghost and Mrs. Muir. And he cures her, and she understands you're alive and live on. And one of the lines in the movie is, as she's leaving, I'm always near you. And I thought, Just like Nothing to Lose, the title came from Frankie Ford's Sea Cruise. Oh, you got nothing to lose. On a sea cruise. Thought you got nothing to lose. Yeah, great. I'm going to write a song about ass fucking. That makes a lot of sense, which is what Nothing to Lose is about. Because when I first heard Backdoor Man, I didn't know what he was singing. Let me be your backdoor man. I didn't know what that was. I go, no, really? So I thought about the back door. That's how that went into Nothing to Lose.
Just a couple more Volk questions and we're done. The last song.
By the way, the riff for Nothing to Lose was taken from a song that's not in this box set called The Moon is a Harsh Mistress, that was based on a title of a science fiction novel by Lester Del Rey. I so fell in love with that title that I gave my only begotten, oh, sorry, I did it again. The Moon is a Harsh Mistress. I went, wow, that's cool. So if you give me the guitar, I'll show you where Nothing to Lose came from.
Rock Salad TV. 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 Rock Salad TV.
Okay, kids, you want to know where, how? Go to GeneSimmonsVault.com. GeneSimmonsVault.com.